The night swallows everything, but some disappearances cut deeper into the fabric of reality than others. February 9th, 2004, a Saturn sedan sits empty against a New Hampshire snowbank. Its driver vanished into the winter air like smoke. What happened in those 9 minutes between the crash and the arrival of police remains one of the most haunting mysteries of the digital age. Maura Murray was 21 years old, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, an athlete who had transferred from West Point because military life didn't suit her ambitions. On the surface, she appeared to be navigating the ordinary turbulence of young adulthood. But beneath this veneer, something darker was stirring. 3 months before her disappearance, Murray had been caught using a stolen credit card to order food from local restaurants. The charges were continued, pending good behavior. It was a minor transgression, the kind that might be dismissed as youthful indiscretion, but it revealed something else, a willingness to deceive, to construct false realities when convenience demanded it. On February 5th, 4 days before she vanished, Murray received a phone call from her older sister Kathleen during her night shift as a security guard on campus. The conversation concerned Kathleen's relationship problems with her fiancé. Around 10:30 that evening, Murray broke down completely. When her supervisor found her at her desk, she was described as completely zoned out, unresponsive, staring into nothing. When asked what was wrong, Murray spoke only 2 words: "My sister." The exact nature of that conversation would remain buried for 13 years, until Kathleen finally revealed the truth. She was an alcoholic who had been discharged from rehabilitation that very evening. On the way home, her fiancé had taken her to a liquor store, triggering an immediate relapse. The weight of her sister's self-destruction had somehow transferred itself to Maura, creating a psychic wound that would fester for the next 4 days. If you find yourself drawn into the darkness of unsolved mysteries like this one, if you crave the cold examination of human behavior at its most inexplicable, then subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. We dissect the cases that law enforcement abandons, the disappearances that haunt families for decades, the moments where ordinary people step through invisible doorways and are never seen again. Because understanding the void requires staring directly into it. Saturday, February 7th. Fred Murray visited his daughter at UMass Amherst. They went car shopping that afternoon, then dinner with one of Maura's friends. Everything appeared normal, the mundane rituals of father and daughter spending time together. But normality was already fracturing. That night, Maura borrowed her father's Toyota Corolla to attend a dorm party. She arrived at 10:30, left at 2:30 in the morning. At 3:30 a.m. on Sunday, February 8th, while driving to her father's motel, she struck a guardrail on Massachusetts Route 9 in Hadley. The damage was extensive, nearly $10,000 worth of destruction to her father's vehicle. The responding officer filed an accident report, but there is no documentation of field sobriety tests being conducted. This absence of standard procedure would later become significant. At 4:49 a.m., someone placed a cell phone call to Maura's boyfriend from Fred's phone. The identity of the caller remains unknown. The content of that conversation remains unknown. Another crack in the foundation of what we think we understand. Fred learned that his insurance would cover the damage. He rented a replacement vehicle, dropped Maura back at campus, and departed for Connecticut. Before leaving, he reminded her to obtain the necessary accident forms from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. They agreed to discuss the insurance claim by phone on Monday night. It was the last normal conversation they would ever have. Monday, February 9th, 2004. Shortly after midnight, Maura used her computer to search MapQuest for directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. Why these locations? What drew her attention to these particular destinations in the dead of night? The searches themselves suggest premeditation, a mind already calculating routes into the unknown. At 1 p.m., she emailed her boyfriend a message that now reads like a farewell letter, promising to call him later that day. She never would. At the same time, she contacted a condominium association in Bartlett, New Hampshire, the same place where her family had vacationed in the past. The call lasted 3 minutes. The owner declined to rent to her, another door closing. Then, the lies began in earnest. At 1:24 p.m., Murray emailed her work supervisor and professors, claiming she needed to take a week off due to a death in the family. According to her relatives, no such death had occurred. It was a fabrication, a cold, calculated deception designed to buy her time. Time for what? That question would haunt investigators for decades. At 2:05, she called a recorded information line about booking hotels in Stowe, Vermont. The call lasted 5 minutes. At 2:18, she left a voicemail for her boyfriend, promising they would talk later. These would be her final recorded communications with anyone she knew. The digital footprints of a person methodically severing her connections to the world. Murray packed clothing, toiletries, college textbooks, and birth control pills. When campus police later searched her dormitory room, they discovered most of her belongings packed in boxes, artwork removed from the walls. The room had been systematically dismantled, as if she were preparing for a permanent departure. On top of the boxes lay a printed email to her boyfriend, suggesting trouble in their relationship. Another fragment of evidence pointing toward someone preparing to disappear forever. Around 3:30 p.m., Murray drove off campus in her black 1996 Saturn sedan. Classes had been canceled due to a snowstorm, providing her with the perfect cover for her departure. At 3:40, she withdrew $280 from an ATM. Security footage confirmed she was alone. At a nearby liquor store, she purchased approximately $40 worth of alcoholic beverages, including Bailey's Irish Cream, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of Franzia wine. Again, the cameras showed her acting alone, methodically accumulating the supplies for some unknown purpose. Murray left Amherst between 4 and 5 p.m., presumably traveling north on Interstate 91. At 4:37, she called to check her voicemail. This was the last recorded use of her cell phone. After this moment, Maura Murray effectively ceased to exist in any verifiable way. Sometime after 7 p.m., a resident of Woodsville, New Hampshire, heard a loud thump outside her house. Through her window, she observed a car pressed against the snowbank along Route 112, also known as Wild Ammonoosuc Road. The vehicle was positioned on a sharp corner pointing west on the eastbound side of the road. She called the Grafton County Sheriff's Department at 7:27 to report the accident. According to the 911 log, the woman initially claimed to have seen a man smoking a cigarette inside the car. Later, she would recant this statement, explaining that she had actually observed what appeared to be a red light glowing from within the vehicle, possibly from a cell phone. This contradiction would become another thread in the tapestry of confusion surrounding the case. A school bus driver who lived nearby stopped at the scene. He encountered a young woman walking around the damaged vehicle. She appeared cold and shivering, but was not bleeding or visibly injured. When he offered to call for help, the woman asked him not to contact police. Some reports suggest she pleaded with him. She claimed to have already called AAA roadside assistance. This was a lie. AAA has no record of any such call. The bus driver knew there was no cellular reception in that remote area, making her claim about contacting AAA impossible. He continued home and called police at 7:43 p.m. While he was making this call, he noticed several cars pass by the accident scene. By the time police arrived at 7:46 p.m., Maura Murray had vanished. Another local resident driving home from work claimed to have passed the scene around 7:37 and observed a police SUV parked face-to-face with Murray's Saturn. She briefly pulled over but saw no one inside or outside either vehicle, then continued home. This witness statement directly contradicts the official police log, which shows Haverhill police arriving 9 minutes later. The discrepancy has never been resolved, creating yet another impossible element in an already bewildering case. Inside Murray's car, police discovered red stains that appeared to be red wine. An empty beer bottle sat on the floor. A damaged box of Franzia wine occupied the rear seat. They found her AAA card, blank accident report forms, gloves, compact discs, makeup, diamond jewelry, driving directions to Burlington, her favorite stuffed animal, and a book titled Not Without Peril, about mountain climbing in the White Mountains. Missing were her debit card, credit cards, cell phone, and several bottles of the liquor she had purchased earlier. These items have never been located or used. A rag believed to be part of Murray's emergency roadside kit was discovered stuffed into the Saturn's muffler pipe. Whether this was placed there intentionally or occurred during the crash remains unknown. Between 8 and 8:30 p.m., a contractor returning home from Franconia allegedly saw a young person moving quickly on foot eastbound on Route 112, approximately 4 to 5 miles east of where Murray's car was found. The figure was wearing jeans, a dark coat, and a light-colored hood. The contractor did not report this sighting to police immediately, only realizing 3 months later that the timing coincided with Murray's disappearance. If this sighting was accurate, it suggests Murray had traveled a considerable distance on foot in freezing conditions after abandoning her vehicle. Search efforts began the following day, but they would prove futile. A tracking dog followed Murray's scent from one of her gloves approximately 100 yards east of the crash site before losing the trail entirely. This suggested to investigators that she had left the area in another vehicle, but whose vehicle and why remained unanswered questions. In the weeks and months that followed, multiple searches were conducted. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging cameras scoured the mountainous terrain. Tracking dogs and cadaver dogs combed through the forests. Volunteers organized extensive ground searches. All of them failed to produce any trace of Maura Murray. One particularly disturbing development occurred in October 2006. Volunteers conducting a search focused their attention on an A-frame house approximately 1 mile from the crash site. In the closet of this house, cadaver dogs allegedly went bonkers, possibly detecting the presence of human remains. The house had formerly been owned by a man who became a person of interest in the case. His brother had given Fred Murray a rusty, stained knife, claiming it had been used to kill Maura. A sample of carpet from the home was sent to the New Hampshire State Police, but the results were never released to the public. In 2019, excavation was conducted in the basement of this same house. The new owners had granted permission for the search after previous owners had refused. The excavation yielded absolutely nothing, other than what appeared to be a fragment of pottery or old piping, another dead end in a case filled with them. 20 years have passed since Maura Murray vanished into the New Hampshire wilderness. Her case was transferred to the state's Cold Case Division in 2009. In 2021, bone fragments discovered on Loon Mountain raised hopes for resolution, but DNA testing confirmed they did not belong to Murray. In January 2022, the FBI issued a national alert and created a violent criminal apprehension profile, allowing multiple law enforcement agencies to share information. In February 2024, on the 20th anniversary of her disappearance, officials released an age progression photograph showing what Murray might look like today. The official investigation remains active,
though periods of intense activity are followed by long stretches of dormancy. Senior Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Strelzin has stated that while they don't know if Maura is a victim, the state is treating her case as a potential homicide.
But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this case is not what happened to Maura Murray, but what her disappearance reveals about the fragility of human existence. In the span of 9 minutes, a young woman with dreams, relationships, problems, and a future simply ceased to exist in any meaningful way. Her physical form may have continued somewhere, but everything that connected her to the world, her identity, her relationships, her digital presence, all of it ended on that frozen stretch of New Hampshire road. The last confirmed image we have of Maura Murray shows her alone at a liquor store, methodically purchasing alcohol for reasons we will never understand. Her final voicemail promised her boyfriend they would talk later. They never did. Her last email to professors mentioned a fictional family death. The lie served its purpose, buying her the time she needed to disappear completely. What drives a person to orchestrate their own erasure from existence? Was this a carefully planned escape from a life that had become unbearable? Or did she simply drive north with no destination in mind, only the desire to be anywhere other than where she was? Did she encounter someone on that dark road who offered her a ride into oblivion? Or did she walk into the forest and allow the winter cold to make the decision for her? The answers died with Maura Murray, wherever and whenever that death occurred. What remains is a 20-year-old mystery that has consumed her family, spawned countless theories, and reminded us that in the modern world, with all our surveillance and digital tracking, it is still possible for a human being to simply vanish without a trace. The void that swallowed Maura Murray continues to expand, pulling in everyone who tries to understand what happened on that February night. And perhaps that is the most disturbing truth of all, that some disappearances are so complete, so absolute, that they become permanent wounds in the fabric of reality itself.